Fazza out of control. The hospital interview. They told me to sit down, to speak slow, to breathe in. But how can I breathe when the world is so thin? I came in like calm, but my soul was aflame. Now I'm known to the crowd by a much different name. They call me unstable, unhinged in the light, but they don't see my battles that rage in the night. I sat in that room with the camera so near, and a nurse in the corner who studied my fear. The doctor just asked, why the sudden decline? I laughed through the pain and said, this story's mine. I tore at my collar like it strangled my chest, and shouted, this heart was not built for this test. I loved like a warrior. I gave like a king, but she left me alone, with no song left to sing. They praised me in poems, they cheered every post, but nobody stayed when I needed them most. Now you ask for my version, my truth for the screen? Fine, I'll paint you a portrait that's nothing but keen. I said, she was grace, she was stars in my sky, but she walked away cold without saying goodbye. She was soft like a whisper, fierce like a storm, but she left me broken, disheveled, and worn. They scribbled in notes while I dug through my past, and the words from my soul came spilling too fast. I danced in her silence. I fed on her lies. I begged her to stay while she aimed for the skies. They called me obsessed, too intense, far too wild. But love doesn't come neat. It's no choreographed child. It breaks you, it shapes you, it throws you off track, and some of us never quite get ourselves back. I stood from the chair as my voice grew more raw. The nurse took a step like she'd seen something flawed. But I wasn't violent, just broken, just loud, just a man who once smiled, now lost in the crowd. My poems were screams that I dressed up in lace. I smiled for the press with tears on my face. You saw the gold horses, the palace, the pride, but not the long nights when I trembled inside. She haunted my chambers, her perfume still stayed, but her love was a weapon that softly betrayed. They said I was Fazza, the dream of the land, but even great princes fall hard when they stand. The doctor leaned forward and lowered his tone. Do you wish she had stayed, or just left you alone? I cracked a small grin, and then stared at the floor. It's not that she left, it's what she left me for. Fame? Another man? Or her fear of my fire? Whatever it was, it extinguished desire. She called me controlling. She said I was cold, but I gave her a castle and stories untold. I carved her in verses, I stitched her in thread, but she loved like a shadow, and now she is dead. Not in body perhaps, but to me she is gone, and the echo she left keeps dragging me on. I looked at the camera with tears in my throat. My kingdom feels empty. My soul wears a coat, a straitjacket woven with secrets and pain, and no one but silence now shares in my reign. You call this an interview, some public affair, but I'm giving you blood while you just sit and stare. The nurse wiped her eye, and the doctor wrote slow, as if this confession was more than they'd know. My heart is a hospital patient's and screams. My mind is a hallway with flickering dreams. The walls speak in riddles, the ceiling in dread, and I've fallen in love with the ghosts in my head. Do you sleep? He then asked, with professional grace. I chuckled and said, not in this cursed place. I close both my eyes, and she enters again, dragging old memories like needles and pen. She writes on my chest with her ink made of guilt, and reminds me of every last kingdom we built. They whispered outside while I rocked in my chair, still dressed in a robe, still breathing stale air. My crown was misplaced. My poems grew dim, and the only applause came from shadows within. I once was a poet whose words shaped the world, but now I'm a patient whose truths are unfurled. I scream into pillows. I laugh in the halls. I talk to the mirrors and write on the walls. I whisper to nurses who think I'm insane. But I'm just a lover who drowned in the rain. I'm Fazza, they say, but I'm no longer whole. She took all my rhymes and then stole my soul. They showed me the footage. They begged me to smile, but I gave them silence that stretched for a mile. My truth isn't clean. It's not wrapped up in bows. It's raw and it's jagged and bleeding in prose. You want my confession? You're getting it bare. I lost all control because she wasn't there. I ruined the halls with the weight of my grief. I yelled at the sky and I shattered belief. My guards had to hold me. My brothers just cried, while I begged the whole world to rewind what died. And now you sit calmly, recording my pain, but you weren't the one that love drove insane. The palace grew colder, my poems grew dark. The falcons all watched as I lost every spark. The desert grew crueler, the sea wouldn't speak, and I, once a storm, became fragile and meek. This isn't a breakdown, it's just the reveal of how deep a prince can still hurt and still feel. They gave me more pills that I flushed down the drain, because nothing on earth can numb royal pain. I talked to the moon like it still held her face, and wished she would come just to leave me some grace. But grace is a stranger to those left behind, and kings don't get mercy for loving too blind. I wasn't abusive, I wasn't insane. I was just a man who gave too much in vain. But try being royal and falling apart. They don't send a doctor, they frame you as art. They put you in papers with headlines that bite, and no one comes near you when day turns to night. I walk through this ward like a crownless old king, remembering love and the hell it can bring. So, if this is a story for ratings and views, then let them all hear it, I've nothing to lose. But know this, I warned as my eyes turned to steel. This isn't just madness, this is how I heal. They let me go quiet, the tape still alive, while I sat with the ghosts who helped me survive. She's gone from my life, but her echoes remain, and I wear them each day like a tattoo of pain. The world may not see it, but you now just heard the truth of a prince who got lost in one word. So say what you want, let the tabloids distort, but I spoke from my heart in that hospital court. And maybe tomorrow they'll laugh at my fall, but tonight I was honest, and that's worth it all. Not every confession wears glitter or gold. Sometimes it's just crying, out of control. They called it the interview that shook the crown, where Fazza confessed how love dragged him down. But I call it closure in the shape of a scream, a shattered man waking from one royal dream. And if she should see this from wherever she hides, let her know it still hurts, but at least now it rides. This poem's a witness, not written for fame, but to show that even fire can drown in its flame. And if love was a madness, then I took it whole, a prince in a ward, confessing his soul.